A Talladega race that didn't end in a wreckfest? Impossible! At least I thought it was impossible, but today proved me wrong. Wow, what a race that was. That was, in my opinion, one of the best Talladega races in quite some time because you had incredible, aggressive pack racing. It kept you on the edge of your seat, but it wasn't a wreckfest. It was clean, aggressive racing from start to finish. There were some moments, but overall, it was relatively a clean race. 57 lead changes between 10 different leaders. I mean, there's really not much to go over in this race of what happened earlier on. Stage 1, Stage 2, again, we saw a lot of aggressive but awesome, intense pack racing. We did see a couple of moments in stage number 1 on lap 25. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. bumps Harrison Byrne out of shape, creating an 8-car pileup, including playoff driver Joey Logano, but received very little damage. And on lap 45, Corey LaJoie gets into the wall from the 29th position after cutting down a right front tire. That was really all that happened. And we only had 6 cautions in this race. The 2 cautions that I mentioned were wreck related. Those were the only 2 ones. Another one was Ty Dillon right side window flying up in the air for debris. The other 2 were stage cautions, like I mentioned. And 1 took place very late in the race, which we'll get into. But stage 1, stage 2, like I mentioned, awesome pack racing. You saw a lot of front runners like Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, that were really showing their skills and showing how fast of a car they had. Then you saw drivers like Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott start to pick up steam in stage 2. Ross Chastain and Denny Hamlin in stage number 2 were also very, very strong. It's like every stage it had your front runners. You had those 2-3 drivers that would maintain pace of how the pack would travel on throughout a stage. So stage 1 was, like I said, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, those types of drivers. Stage 2 was Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, was those types of drivers. Every stage had its own front runner. Stage 3, kind of the same thing that happened. It carried on from stage 2. You saw Hendrick Motorsports like Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson up front, Blaney up front, Chastain up front. Eric Jones also led a lot of laps. He led 18 laps in this race, was up towards the front near the very end. It was just very solid, aggressive racing. I don't know what else. You can't really complain about this race. Now, it was getting really excited towards the final few laps. You saw a lot of aggressive pushing and shoving. Drivers getting squirrely out of shape, especially coming off the corner. Dale Jr. was very, very helpful with his commentary in this race because of how good he is on the super speedways. He was really able to help add a new level to the broadcast by helping the viewer understand what's going on, what are they doing, why are they making this move, and things like that. So from a racing perspective, not only just watching the racing, but also from listening and from the broadcast was very enjoyable to watch throughout this entire race. But like I mentioned, it was getting down to the nitty gritty. You saw a lot of drivers just being very aggressive. And I thought there's no way. When it came down to 20 laps ago, it was so intense. I'm thinking there's no way they're gonna go 20 laps without wrecking with how they were racing. And they almost did. But till 6 laps ago, Daniel Hemrick, motor issue, stalls right at the exit of pit road. Now, there was a lot of controversy by that decision because NASCAR threw out the caution for that. Well, here's what I say is this. To those fans, I understand if you're upset by that, but it is mighty hypocritical of some of y'all, I'm talking about mainly Twitter, to complain about safety, to preach about safety issues all week, but then criticize NASCAR for throwing a caution because where Hemrick was sitting could have been very dangerous. He's in the car. He can't just get out of the car and walk away. No, he has to stay in the car. And let's say, depending on what we saw with the truck race, coming towards the start finish line, we saw a lot of trucks travel to the entrance of pit road or would slide to the entrance of pit road, which could have been very dangerous. So yeah, you may not have liked the move, but it was necessary for NASCAR to throw the caution. Just wanted to point that out. But we ended up getting a 2-lap shootout to the finish line between drivers like Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Ross Chastain. So coming to the final lap in the Tri-Oval, you had the Fords of Blaney and McDowell on the inside, and on a Chevrolet of Chase Elliott and Eric Jones on the outside, and they were dead even. They were so close. They were just inches or centimeters off of each other. You see how intense that final lap was between the 2 drivers up front, but the outside lane just had much more momentum and they were way more connected. Chastain pushing Jones, Jones pushing Elliott. They just had so much momentum and they were out to lead just for a little bit, but then you see the 11 car of Hamlin pushes the Fords of McDowell and Blaney entering 3 and 4. Blaney and McDowell get out ahead, but the 9 and the 43 have much more momentum. They're way more connected on the outside lane, and then Elliott, with help from from Jones storms by to the outside at Blaney. Elliott clears Blaney, and from that point on, it's just a drag race to the line from second on back. McDowell gives Blaney one last shot for the lead, but it was not enough. Elliott holds off to win at Talladega in an incredible finish to what was an amazing race to watch. His 15th career Cup Series win. I think this is his 5th win, or I should say his 18th career Cup Series win, his 5th win of 2022, and now becomes the first driver. This is shocking. He becomes the first driver, playoff driver, to win in the playoffs. So far this entire time since the playoffs have begun, it has always been won by a non-playoff driver. Chase Elliott now becomes the first playoff driver to be locked into the next round. He doesn't have to worry about the Charlotte Roval next weekend. He is in the round of 8. So here's a look at the results from this race. Chase Elliott, like I said, goes to victory lane for the second time at Talladega, leading 9 of the 188 laps. Ryan Blaney in second place led 29 laps. Michael McDowell in third. Ross Chastain, 35 laps he led, comes home in fourth. And Denny Hamlin, 19 laps he led, comes home in fifth. As you notice, a lot of the front runners that were leading the most laps, they end up finishing where they were for majority of the day. Elliott, even though he didn't lead a lot of laps, he was up towards the front a lot with help with Kyle Larson. Kind of interesting to see super speedway racing go back to where it once was, or to rightfully go back to an era where if you had a fast car and you were up front, you were rewarded by having a good finish. Eric Jones finishes in 6th, Todd Gilliland, the rookie, in 7th, Suarez in 8th, Cindric 9th, and Chase Briscoe round to the top 10. How about a nice run for that 77 car, Landon Castle for Spire Motorsports in 11th place, Byron in 12th, Austin Dillon 13th, Eric Almirola, Justin Haley top 15, Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson in 18th. He may not have had a good finish, but at the very least, he finished a super speedway race. Noah Gragson filling in for Alex Bowman in 19th, and Kyle Busch rounds at the top 20. Some other notables like Joey Logano, who was in that lap 25 crash, finishes 27th. Tyler Reddick finishes 28th. He ran out of gas, I believe, at the end of stage 2, and which is nowhere to be seen. Kevin Harvick finishes 29th. But the reason for that is because he was penalized. He was caught speeding on pit road, as well as Brad Keselowski, who, like I said, finished 24th. So that's why they were so far back. Those drivers on back, they're either a lap down or were taken out from earlier incidents. Corey LaJoie, Ty Gibbs, they were out of the race, as well as Harrison Burton. And with that, let's take a look at the playoff grid. After Talladega, Chase Elliott can sleep easily next weekend at the Roval. His name colored in yellow. He's advanced into the round of 8. Blaney plus 32, Chastain plus 28, Hamlin plus 21. Then he got a tie for 5th with Logano and Larson plus 18, Daniel Suarez plus 12, and a tie for the final playoff spot to advance. Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe both plus 0, but Briscoe breaks the tie, so he currently holds the final spot. 9th to 12th remains the same. Byron, Bell, and Bowman. Bowman would, if he is to return next weekend at the Charlotte Roval, he would have to win. And yeah, that's going to conclude this episode. I don't know what else to talk about. I mean, this race was just really, really good. You got everything that you loved about pack racing, and you didn't see the stuff that you hate about pack racing, which is all these random wrecks. There were some patches, but there wasn't really a straight up dull moment in this race. Like what we saw in the Xfinity race yesterday, there was a lot of freight training. We didn't really see that much, and if so, it was very short-lived. You would see a lot of drivers pull out to the inside to try and create a second lane, to try and create moments, which made the race very entertaining. Hats off to NASCAR, because I feel like they got the perfect super speedway package that's still very entertaining but doesn't cause wrecks. The previous package in the final years of the Gen 6 car, you saw a lot of intense aggressive racing, but with the huge run it got, you would see a lot of crashes take place. But this one, you get that aggressiveness of pack racing, but you don't get that high risk, high reward of getting such a big run that you just knock them sideways and cause a big crash. Even back at the Talladega race back in the spring, you didn't really see that many crashes. There was 1 or 2 big, like pretty big hits, but you didn't see crashes that took up 15 or so cars. Now Daytona is a different story, but for Talladega, I feel like they got a great super speedway package. Intense, exciting pack racing, but doesn't bring in a lot of the bad stuff like the big ones and cars taken out and having only 10 drivers finish the race. I mean, we had what, more than 30 cars finish this race? It was absolutely incredible. Yeah, overall, I love this race. I get this race an 8.5 out of 10. I mean, it wasn't amazing. It wasn't the best Talladega race. I mean, again, like I said, there were some spots that were a bit dull, but not so much that it made a stage feel boring. But overall, it was very exciting. I will say it was one of the best Talladega races in quite some time. So actually, I'll give it a 9. I say 8.5, I'll give it a 9. One of the best Talladega races I've seen in quite some time, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this race, and what an exciting finish from Chase Elliott with help from Eric Jones to get the job done. So not only was it a great race, it was also a popular victory because the crowd was insane when Chase Elliott got out of that car. Absolutely insane. But loved everything from it, loved the race, loved the broadcast. I'm happy. But what did you think about this race? Did you like it? Did you not? Tell me in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Congratulations to Chase Elliott, your winner at Talladega.